I'm Prosper. I'm from Nigeria, so you know I have an accent already, so I hope you guys can understand me or can hear what I have to say, like she has an accent. So I'm a Google developer expert. What that means is you're recognized by Google as an expert in your field for web technologies. And then these are my social media handles. I'm very active on GitHub, Unicode developer. And I make a lot of noise on Twitter. So I tweet like every second. So you can check that out. You can follow me for some interesting stuff. And then I write a lot on Medium too. I like to write a lot. And so I like to call myself a community evangelist because I live in Nigeria, even though I work for a US company here. I work for Auth0. I don't know if any of you have used Auth0 for authentication. Yeah. So, but then I live in Nigeria, I work remotely. And in Nigeria, I organize what you call 4Loop Africa. 4Loop Africa is an organization that tries to organize meetups around different places in Nigeria, organize hackathons, try to introduce people to more of these technologies. And then we have extended to other countries like Kenya and Uganda. And right now we are moving to Ghana in a couple of weeks. I also run Laravel Nigeria with a very cool dude called Neo Igodaru. I run Angular Nigeria. Then there's a new one I just started with Sean Larkin. I'm sure everybody knows Sean here, the Webpack guy, called Webpack Africa. So this is just to encourage people from the African region to contribute to Webpack and speak about Webpack, write about it, and all of that. All right. So right now, there are several user experiences across the world with media on the web. And I don't know if you know this guy, Big Shark, Man's Not Hot. Who knows that video? No one? Oh, shit. All right, okay. It's trending on YouTube, so you can check it out. Man's Not Hot. Anyway, let's just go through some of the experiences they have right now on the web when someone is going through media. And the reason why I'm showing this is I live in a country where we basically use more of 3G. Anytime I'm here in the US, I have 4G, LTE, and all of that. But then when I'm back in Lagos, I don't even get 4G on my phone. The highest is 3G. And then most times I'm running on slow 3G, right? So if I'm using Instagram or using WhatsApp or using any of these apps that has to do with, or YouTube, if I'm streaming videos, it's buffering all the time. I have to, something I could go through in 15 minutes, I'm going through it in 30 minutes. So these are some of the tips you can use to build apps for people from our region. Because then Africa is an emerging market, right? Then you talk about places like China or India, Indonesia, and these emerging markets have, they still have problems with internet connectivity, and they spend a lot. So right now, these are some of the user experiences you have. I was just going through Twitter and somebody was saying this. Nothing is more frustrating than waiting for Snap videos to load with a shitty network. I just swiped through. But then, this is my major experience. Every time I try to, watch a video on YouTube, or I try to view someone's story on Instagram or Snapchat, this is my typical experience and an experience of somebody else, that uses the same slow 3G network with me. And then, also, this is another experience because you're watching a video and all of a sudden the network goes off, or you're on a train and all of a sudden you don't have network, and yet you can't play the video, there is no offline, nothing, it just stops in the middle, and you're frustrated because you know why? You can't talk to the person next to you because the person next to you is looking like a robber, and you just have to keep quiet and just wait till you get to the end of your journey. Also, imagine you try to load an image the first time, it takes a long time to load, and by default, because you use some other apps, that by the time you try to load the same image again, there should be no form of buffering. But then you try to load the image again, and then you're waiting for that same image to load. That's crazy. So you can just, because of that, you can just log out of the app. You can go and look for an alternative and all of that. And if you're building a startup, you don't want to lose users. You want to do everything possible for you to gain as much users as possible, and not spend so much on marketing to gain those users. All right. Yeah, so this is a statistic. After 2 seconds of buffering, users start dropping off at around 6% per second. So if users are trying to use your app to watch videos or get images, and it buffers every time, they look for alternatives. And the funny thing about the boom of technology right now is there is an alternative for everything. Like you want to use Google now. If Google is not going, you're using Bing or you're using something else. If WhatsApp is not going, you're using WeChat. If your Instagram is not working, you're using. So there are like 10 alternatives for every app that you use. So I mean, the alternative is the competition, right? So you don't want users to like leave your own app and start using the alternative. And by the time you guys get it right, to try to get users again, you have to spend more on marketing. All right, so still stats, 62% of internet traffic is made up of images with audio and video constituting a growing percentage of the bytes. And that's very true because when you look at what the internet is right now, it's more of media. Like you have images, you have videos. Like more people watch videos and listen to audios now than text. So if, and I'm sure as developers we do this a lot, if there is a book you have to read, if there is a podcast version of that book, would you rather buy the book or would you rather listen to the podcast? Because you're busy, right? When you get to work, you just want to work. So if you're going back and you're on the train or in the Uber, you just want to listen to what that book has to say instead of having to go through the book, going to the text. So, or there, if you have an illustration, for example, if I try to explain Webpack to you, the internals of Webpack, would you prefer reading a full text of explaining the internals of Webpack or rather see a diagram where I point arrows and say, okay, this is how the AST works, this is how the loaders work, this is how the plugins work. You prefer the graphical version, right? So most times we deal with more of images, audio, and video. So what does a modern media experience actually entail? Very simple. 1, fast playback, 2, great UX. 3, delivery of high quality media assets. And 4, accessibility anywhere. So we're just quickly going to talk about each of them. 1 is fast playback. So these are case studies that you can check out. 1 is iHeartRadio. iHeartRadio is a streaming service. It's a radio streaming service, and it just simply deals with audio. You can check for different types of songs and all of that on iHeartRadio. And if you go through this, if you use this app, the experience is actually so great, and that's one of the reasons I put it here as an example. You can download it to check it out and see how seamless it is to listen to songs and move from one place to another. Another one, part of what interests me about this app is their usage of the media session API, and we're going to talk more about media session API later. So let's just skip that. And also, this is GeoCinema. GeoCinema is a very popular app in India. And one thing about GeoCinema is also it's a progressive web app, and it has all the characteristics of a modern media app. So like fast playback for the videos, you can play videos offline. They also make use of this media session API, which I'm just going to talk about soon. This is just a demo app. This is not a startup or anything. This is something just to show you how images work offline. So if you have a site that has a lot of images, you can cache it, pre-cache it with Workbox. Workbox is a tool for pre-caching images, and by the time the user is offline, they can still access the images on the platform. All right, so how do you build a modern media experience? All right, so let's take it one after the other. So recommended video players, say you want to build a media app. So these are 2 great video players I'm going to recommend. I mean, by default, you have the HTML5 video element, right? That everybody has access to, you can start. But then that's very preliminary. You just have the normal basic functions that you can accomplish. There are so many things you want to do behind the scene. You want to perform what you call adaptive bitrate streaming. You want to be able to customize your player. You want to be able to provide several options for the users. You want to be able to also maybe add machine learning, the ability to transcribe videos. You also want to be able to allow users monetize the videos they put on the platform. You cannot just do that alone with the video HTML5 element. You also have to add a lot of extra logic behind the scenes. But then, instead of you having to do that manually, these are tools that can help you accomplish everything, because these are well-tested tools that people have used over and over again. And the first one we talk about is Google Shaka Player. I mean, Instagram uses the Google Shaka Player. And the Google Shaka Player is so good. It's open source, it's free. It supports custom subtitle rendering. It supports adaptive bitrate streaming, and also the ability for you to handle several playlists. Same thing too as the Cloudinary video player. So these are links that you can check. I'm going to make these slides available so you can check these links and see more about these 2 video players. All right, so for fast playback, how do you ensure fast playback? One of the techniques for ensuring fast playback is with adaptive bitrate streaming. And what does it offer for you? It allows your videos to start quicker, you know, and the way adaptive bitrate streaming works is you have multiple video streams with different resolutions, qualities and bitrates sent to the browser, and then the browser can now determine the particular, you know, resolution and bitrate to play to the user based on the user's connectivity. And also, when you want to, because of how complex adaptive bitrate streaming is, if you want to implement that manually, it's going to take a lot of effort, it's going to take a lot of time. So you can just take advantage of already available tools. I already talked about the Google Shaka player that supports adaptive bitrate streaming out of the box. You can also take control of, leverage Cloudinary's adaptive bitrate streaming because it has a plug and play adaptive bitrate streaming with HLS and MPEG Dash. So instead of you having to do all of that manually with all the work, I mean, what you want to do is actually ship a product that users can use. So you want to concentrate more on your business logic than having to do all of this, you know, from scratch or, you know, take time. So you can just take advantage of these tools and have that working for you. Another technique you can use is video preload. So I'm not talking about React yet. We're just talking about bare bones, you know, HTML and JavaScript. And I don't know if you saw the tweet the other day about Netflix, where they said when they removed React, they had 50% increase. I don't want to talk much about that, but then it's crazy for you to maybe try to create a landing page and you create a landing page with React. It's just funny, unless you have so many controls on that. Why not use, you know, the very framework we know, which is Vanilla.js? You know, so this is what you can do. You have your video element with a preload attribute, and then when you set the preload attribute to auto, it indicates that the browser may cache enough data that complete playback is possible without requiring a stop for further buffering. Now, this has some considerations you have. This has some factors that you have to consider before these things can just work out of the box, which we are going to talk about, I mean, in the next slides. Another technique you can apply is the link preload. What link preload is what I just said there. It's a declarative fetch that allows you to force the browser to make a request for a resource without blocking the onload event while the page is downloading. So if you're using preload, look at this example here. So you have a link to a video that you actually want to display to the user, but then you have link preload here, and then look at the script. You assign the link to the video to the SRC attribute of the video player, and then you go ahead and play. But then because you already preloaded the video using the link tag, it's going to actually play faster than you not using the link preload. So it's going to actually play faster than just assigning the MP4 file to the SRC attribute and playing it for the user. Because while the user downloads the page, it preloads, it tries to pre-cache some of the video so that when the user starts playing, there is no buffering. It starts to play faster than normal. But then it's recommended for smaller files though. Okay, so these are some of the things you can consider before you start to do any of this preload. And then the reason why I like this is because you can take advantage of the browser API, which is very easy. Look at what we're talking about. You can check the user's battery level. So I'll give you an example. Because I'm from Lagos here, and in Lagos, you have more people, I mean, in developing countries, you have more people use Android devices than iOS devices. You know why? Because it's affordable, right? We can easily afford that. And then when you're using this kind of devices, because of the high data rate and also the low bandwidth, you want to save data as possible. That's why in places like my region, you still have a lot of more people using Opera Mini. I don't know how many of you use Opera Mini here? Yeah, I mean, you can count. But then back in Nigeria, you have a lot of people using Opera Mini. So by the time you look at the statistics of people visiting your platform, your site, a lot of people are using Opera Mini. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to shut it down? Are you just going to forget Opera Mini, or are you just going to lose all your users on Opera Mini and tell them you must upgrade to Chrome or you must upgrade to UC browser? No, because they need to save data. So now, these are some of the things you can do to check before you apply some of these techniques I mentioned, the preload. Check the user's battery. Now, the good thing about this is you can even test it on your laptop right now. You can open Chrome DevTools. You can actually check the battery level of as you're developing, you can check the battery level. Now, with just this simple API, if gets battery navigator, you can check the battery level. And then the good thing about this is, I mean, for some of you that use WhatsApp on the browser, you discover that, you know, if you remove if your battery is getting low on your phone, it actually, like, you know, gives you the notification on the browser, and you're like, okay, how does this work? You know, I'm using this on the browser, my battery is low here, and then I'm getting the notification, please charge, and all of that. So with the navigator.getBattery API method, you can easily check the user's battery level. You can also check if the user's phone is plugged in at that moment, like if it's charging. You can use it to now determine that, okay, if the user's battery is very low, then you can send a warning or something to the user and say, okay, for you to have, you know, an efficient, video playback, I need you to, you know, plug your phone. We need your battery level to be up to a certain level or something like that. Also, you can check the network type. Now, I wouldn't really recommend this because this is very tricky. If you use the connection type, it will give you options of cellular, you know, 4G, Wi-Fi, and all of that. Now, why this is not really recommendable is because somebody can be using Wi-Fi, and then, I mean, imagine, I don't know how many we are in this room right now, but then we can be 1,000 in this room using the same Wi-Fi, and then it can be really, really slow, right? But by default, when you say somebody is using Wi-Fi over cellular network, you believe Wi-Fi is faster, which is kind of wrong with the example I just gave. So I don't know if you really want to use this to check, but I just put this as an option here that you can use just in case. And if you find a way to go around this, I mean, you can, and share it with me. This is a meetup, so you can always share ideas. All right, another thing that you need to consider too is the space left on the user's device, which you can easily get. Now, the good thing also is that we have the browser API that can do this. If storage in Navigator, with this, you can actually check the storage space that the user has on his phone. And then based on the storage space, you can now say, okay, because we have, this guy has like, 2 gig or 3 gig, that means we have enough space to pre-cache this video, right? Because when you're pre-caching a video, it's going to be stored on the user's device. You're not storing it in cloud, you're not storing it in one atmosphere somewhere. It is on the user's device, right? So you have to check the storage. If you check the storage and the user's storage device is the storage is very low, you can actually, put up a toast message or a warning to say, oh, by the way, you need more storage if you want to get this type of video experience, or you need to upgrade to this, you can use that to check. And you don't want to just assume that the user has enough storage. Yes, because when you assume, you're going to lose users from my region too. You're going to use users from India, you're going to use users from China, because we are trying to maximize space and all of that. So instead of, if I'm going to purchase an iPhone, the reality is that some people might purchase an iPhone of, say, 128 gig, but then I will not purchase an iPhone of 128 gig. I'll purchase 64 gig because I don't have enough money to purchase 128 gig, and I know if I have an account with, Google, if I have a Google Drive account or a Microsoft account, I can always store all those things online instead of having them on my device. So it's good to always check the storage, okay? Let's go to the user experience now, which is very, very, very critical. One thing we can take advantage of is the screen orientation API, and I'll just give an example of how that works. It's very simple. So with the screen orientation API, normally when you're watching a video, this is your portrait mode, right? Then most times when you're watching your video, you're in landscape mode, right? Now, for great user experience, if you're building a media app and when the user watches a video, it shows in portrait mode, one thing you would like to do is if the user turns the screen to landscape mode, you want to automatically launch it into full screen mode. The same way if you're watching YouTube, you want it to be bigger, you just click on the full screen mode and then it takes over the entire screen. So if the user is watching it on a portrait mode, by default, it's just within the box, within the container, and all these other stuff are there, just very small. But when the user automatically turns it, you want it to turn to landscape mode and then launch it. By default, if you are talking about doing stuff like that, you'll be talking about doing it in native apps, because in native apps, you can take advantage of, the accelerometer and all of those good things. But the good thing is that it's available on the web too. So with the screen orientation API that we have in the browser, you can just use with JavaScript, you can just check. what mode is the user on right now? Is he on portrait? Is he on landscape? The moment it turns to landscape mode, please request full screen video. So the user does not have to actually click anything. Automatically, as the user flips his phone, it automatically launches full screen video, which is a better user experience for the user, whether you like it or not. All right, so background playback and page visibility. So what this just simply means is, for example, you're watching a video on a page, and then you need to quickly Google something by opening another page in your browser or something like that. And when you switch to another page, you discover that the video that you were watching on the previous page is still playing in the background. Does it make sense? Because then you have left that page. There is no focus on that page again. So you want the video to pause automatically. Instead of having the user to manually pause the video, come back to where he's having his Google search, then come back again, play the video. If you can save the user that's a greater user experience. So if the user gets to another page, it automatically pauses. So with this, you can just listen for changes, and then once the page is hidden, you can automatically pause the video for the user. And when the user comes back, it continues, and the user does not have to do anything. It just automatically works for the user. We have the intersection observer API. I don't know how many people know about the intersection observer API. And what this does is, this is a sample, this is a very good use case. You can show and hide a mute button based on the video visibility on the page. And I'll give you an example. Say you have, the user is on the page and you have the video on top. Then if the user scrolls down, you have maybe some text under, you have some text. And if the user scrolls back up, you have the video. Now, when the user scrolls down and is no longer seeing the video, you want to maybe pop a button by the side. So if you are very used to the material design guidelines, you discover that if you're using Gmail or something, or many of those apps that follow the material design spec, you always see the button by the right. Like maybe you want to create a new mail, you have the round button by the right, and you just click on it, create. So you can do that for your app. So once the user scrolls down, maybe he's reading the text, maybe it's a movie and he's reading the text and the video is not visible, you can make the mute button appear. So you can mute, or you can actually unmute without having to go back to the video. So when you scroll down, you make the button available. The user can mute it from that point if he does not want the video to continue playing, or you can unmute it from there instead of having to always go to click the control of the video by scrolling up. Whether you like it or not, that's also a greater user experience you have created for the user. So instead of him having to go up, scroll up and down, all of that, you just take advantage of the intersection observer API. All right, so this is like my favorite API, the media session API, which I was talking about before. Now, this makes your web app like a mobile app. When you download music players, and then you leave the music player and probably you lock your phone, you discover that when you try to unlock your phone, even without unlocking your phone, you can see the notification on the home screen. So you can actually control the music player or the video player, right? Like what is on the screen right now. You can, for native apps, you can easily, pause this song from the home screen, or you can move forward, you can move backward. But then you can also do it in your web app with the media session API. So with the media session API, you can actually make, and let me just show you how you get it done. Okay, something is wrong with my slides. I just quickly go through that and I'll come back. Okay, this is how the media session API works. So you have an example. You have a play pause button. When you click on it, you stop propagation. If the video is paused, you play the video, then you set the media session. Now when you do this, this is what happens. This is an example code for the media session, right? So you get the metadata of whatever song the user is playing or the video, and you pass it to the media session. And this is what it gets. You get the title, the artist, the album, and the artwork. Now all this will be present. Sorry, I have to go back again. Yeah, something's messed up in my slide. It shows it here on the lock screen, just using the media session API. You can see it's cool. I'll accept that. Yeah, and all this happens just in your web app. It is not a mobile app, but then you're providing a mobile web experience for the user. And then because you're almost providing like a progressive web app, so I mean, if you desire to add to home screen functionality where the user can add it to the home screen and launch it like a mobile app, then this will just be great. So if the user locks his phone, he can actually still see your player on his home screen and control it from there, which is just, I think is very wonderful. All right, so let's go to some of the basic, most of the transformations we do every day. On Instagram, you can, when you upload a picture, you can apply different filters to it, right? Turn it to blue, turn this. All right, you can turn it to blue, change the picture to black and white, do a lot of things, So these are some of the transformations you can do. Now we are talking about React. So say you want to add some of these transformations. Number one is say you want to do some custom shape cropping. A user uploads an image, you want to easily perform some form of cropping. This is an example. Component you can use, you have the image, you have the public ID of the image, and then you just pass in a transformation component. Now in the transformation component, you can specify all the transformations you want. You want to crop it to a width of 173, a height of 200, and the type of crop you want. And then you want an overlay. So say an overlay is just something you need to add on top of the image, like a type of filter, or you want to add another image. You can, with this how many lines of code, you can easily accomplish that. I'm going to tell you where you can get the library for this very soon, but then let's just go through some custom transformations you can easily do. Say you want to use images as text textures. Look at the original image. Now look at the text texture and look at the fetch texture. Like I said, these are just some example of transformations that you can do in some of your media apps. Now look at the way we did it here using that component. This is literally just 3 lines of code. You pass in the name of the image, then you also pass in a transformation component. Like I said, the transformation component is just for you to specify the type of transformation you want. And easily you put the name of the transformation, the text, you put the font weight, bold. You want the flower to be in bold and the flags. And then with just these 3 lines of code, you already have what we have there on the board. This is what most apps do. You want to generate a profile completeness meter. It's very easy. You don't have to write all sorts of how many lines of code, which we always do. You already have an image component, right? The avatar. You just pass in these levels of transformation. Transformation effect, trim, colorize, you put the color, you put the overlay, you specify the type of crop you want and the width. Just these lines of code will generate this profile completeness meter for you. It's as simple as that. There is no magic. Then you want to color a picture, you already have a phone. This is an example of a phone. It can be anything. You just want to change the color. It's as simple as passing the ID of the image and specifying the color, and it just changes it to the color that you want. Just 3 lines of code, literally 3 lines of code in React. So for the videos, you want to concatenate video with images. Look at the transformation I'm putting. That overlay, the example overlay I'm using, that sample is the ID of an image. It's an image that has been uploaded previously. And then the video ID is a dog. Now it overlays this image on the dog video. So if you're playing the video, you have the dog and it's going to show you the image. So you're essentially concatenating video and images with just these few lines of code. My time is up, I guess. I think this is my, don't worry, I'm almost done. You're trying to generate video thumbnails. You have the video, you have an ID of the video, and then you specify where the thumbnail will be generated from. Start offset is just the time where you want the thumbnail to be generated from. And this literally generates your thumbnail for you, literally. This is the library that I used for all those examples I just showed you. Cloudinary is a service that provides many of these transformation effects. If you don't want to use the React library, you can do it on the fly, which is via the URL. But then, since you're using React, if you want to do some heavy overlay transformations, by the time, just check, you can check the documentation. The documentation is very complete. You see the video component and all of that there. All right. So accessibility offline, you use Workbox. Workbox is a very good tool that you can use to cache all your images and your video, make them offline. And then 2 things I want to talk about: background sync. Background sync is an API in the browser that allows you to do almost what you can do in Android apps. In Android apps, you can run a task in the background. I don't know how many Android developers you have here. And then define it, and it can do something later. But then there is the background sync that that is available, that if a user navigates away from the browser while performing an action, or immediately goes offline, it can store that image, it can store that message. Then when the user comes back online, it sends the message to the server. So nothing has been dropped in transmission. If the user leaves the browser, that's okay, it stores it. When the user comes back, it fires that message because it has events that it fires. If the user goes offline, it stores it. Then when the user comes back online, it sends that message. It's a background sync API, it's available in the browser, you can make use of it. This is just a typical example. You check it in your service worker if it's available, register it, and then perform whatever stuff you want to perform. Then the background fetch. I love this so much because this is crazy. Now, what background fetch is not complete yet, is an API that is in transformation, but this is what it aims to do, right? It aims to be able to pause and resume downloads and uploads. You can't do that by default. That's like magic. Like what? I'm developing a web app and I can literally pause an action and say, don't worry, something is off, just relax. Later we can go ahead and do it. So with the background fetch API, this feature was proposed by Jake Archibald, and if you check the Chromium, if you are somebody that check how the Chromium project works, if you check the bugs, you discover that they are working actively on this API. It has been in progress for like 2 years now, and is being implemented as I speak. So I'm sure in the next 1 year, it will be available in the next 2 years, and then you can use it fully. But then you can experiment with the link I put there and the link I put here. And yeah, this is the last slide, I promise. So for all the preload and all the techniques I just talked about and everything I talked about in the previous slides, this is a demo that was developed by Paul Lewis that you can actually test and see how it works. Now, in this video, you can save a video to work offline. So say you're going and you know your network will soon go off, you can actually, in this demo, you will see an option to be able to save an offline copy of the video. So that when you don't have, your network is not available, you can actually play that video and it plays. You know how it plays because it will load it from the cache. So you can save it offline. You can add it to the home screen. There are a lot of, everything I talked about was implemented in this app, and the source code is also available. So after going through the app, you can check the source code and maybe borrow some source code from the source code. All right, so thank you very much. That's all I have.